The sharp scent of pine and damp earth filled my lungs as I stood at the forest's edge, my breath curling into pale clouds in the crisp autumn air. Behind me, the village celebration roared music, laughter clinking glasses echoing through the valley. But out here, just a few steps from the firelight, silence ruled. Shadows stretched long across the ground like dark fingers reaching for me as the sun sank behind the mountains. I shouldn't be here. Not tonight, when every soul in our mountain village gathered for the harvest festival. My absence would raise whispers. Still the forest called to me, as it always had, low and haunting despite every story, warning children never to stray beyond the lantern glow after sundown. "Nira, get back here," my sister's voice sharp with worry and frustration carried from the square. Serene, ever the protector, ever the realist since our parents' accident 3 years ago. I turned to see her form through the smoky haze of bonfires, her dark hair gleaming her confident stride, a mirror opposite of my hesitant steps and pale blonde hair. She was the strong one, the sensible one. I was the dreamer, the girl they called moon-touched. My hand lifted instinctively to the silver charm resting at my throat, the moon drain, my mother's last gift. The small crescent shimmered faintly, its smooth surface worn down from years of restless touch. "Remember who you are when the world tries to make you forget," my mother, Velas, had whispered as she fastened it around my neck on my 16th birthday, just weeks before she and Father Corin were gone. I never truly understood her words. "I'm just getting some air," I called back with a smile that barely formed. Serene folded her arms unconvinced. "They're announcing the spring festival pairings. Everyone's waiting for you." I doubted that. At 22, I was still one of the few unwed women in the village, a fact that stirred more pity than interest. Still, tradition demanded I be there. With one last look into the dark woods, I turned to follow her. That's when I heard it. A deep rumble so low it felt alive, thrumming through the ground beneath my boots. Not thunder. Something breathing, watching. I froze. The hair on my arms rose as I stared into the tree line. 2 eyes glowed back at me, too high too, knowing too human to belong to any ordinary wolf. A massive shape shifted between the trees, broader than any man, the air bending around its power. Serene's hand clamped onto my wrist. "Nira now." I stumbled after her, heart hammering, but I couldn't stop looking back. The eyes were gone. Still, that presence clung to me like a ghost of touch on my skin. The village square blazed with lantern light. People laughed, drank, danced, men in crisp shirts, women in bright shawls, children weaving between tables of roasted meat and honeyed bread. I should have felt warmth. Instead, I felt like a stranger among my own kind. "There she is," boomed Eldon Gray, the mayor, his voice cutting through the chatter as Serene pushed me forward. Our elusive Nira, just in time. The crowd parted and I felt every gaze turn toward me, my cheeks burning. The mayor stood proudly on a wooden platform, his ceremonial vest straining against his chest, while the village elders, 5 men, 2 women, watched with solemn amusement. As tradition dictates, Eldon began unrolling a parchment. "The spring partnerships will now be announced." His tone carried that usual hint of matchmaking mischief. One by one, names were called, each pair met with laughter and cheers. Flower crowns changed hands. Some smiled shyly, others rolled their eyes resigned. My name was still unspoken, as the list grew thin. When only I and Corin, the blacksmith's quiet youngest son, remained, I knew our pairing was inevitable. My stomach nodded. And finally the mayor declared Nira Ashvale, and the words were devoured by a howl. It split the night like a blade so powerful that lantern flames sputtered and died. Then came another, and another, until the mountains themselves seemed to echo with the chorus. Not the familiar calls of small gray wolves that sometimes lingered near our herds, but something older, wilder. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Wolf attacks were rare now, but old tales still lingered, stories of monstrous shapes that walked upright, of villages vanished overnight, of women taken by moonlight and never seen again. Just wild animals, Eldon said too quickly. Nothing to fear, the barriers will hold. But even as he spoke, the heavy wooden gates of the village shuddered, then burst open. Gasps swept through the crowd as torches appeared beyond the archway, moving in formation, men of impossible stature and strength, striding forward with the ease of predators. And at their center, he appeared. Taller than all the rest, broad-shouldered, hair black as the heart of night, eyes like molten amber catching firelight. His gaze swept the crowd and stopped on me. Recognition flashed there, though we had never met, and behind it something deeper. Hunger. Claim. Fate. The moondrain burned cold against my skin. Alpha King Tavren Wolfveil. Eldon whispered, paling, bowing deeply. All around me, villagers dropped to their knees. All except me. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Tavren's lips curved, not quite a smile, more like a promise. Your village holds something that belongs to me, he said, his voice rough, velvet, and iron. He stepped forward, never breaking eye contact. Something precious. Serene appeared at my side, gripping my arm. My lord, we've honored the treaty. For generations we silence. The word wasn't shouted, but it cracked through the night like thunder. Serene's mouth closed instantly. I speak not of treaties. Tavren said, his hand lifting toward my face. I speak of birthright. And though every instinct screamed to step back, part of me wanted to lean into his touch. His fingers hovered near my cheek, close enough that the heat of his skin seemed to brush mine, yet he didn't touch. It was as if he was testing some invisible boundary. Nira Ashvale, Tavren Wolfveil, said my name, rolling off his tongue like something unfamiliar and dangerous. You bear the mark of my kind. The words sent a ripple of confusion through me. I don't understand. You will. His eyes shifted to the moondrain resting against my throat, and something dark, almost satisfied, flashed across his face. Pack your things. You're coming with me. Tonight. Gasps broke through the crowd. Whispers followed like wind in tall grass. Serene's grip on my arm tightened painfully. She's not going anywhere, she hissed, her voice trembling but fierce. She's my sister. She's human. Tavren's laugh was low, humorless. Is she? He began to circle me, slow and deliberate, every step heavy with authority. His presence pressed against my skin like a storm before thunder. Her scent betrays her. Her blood calls to mine. He stopped just behind me, his breath stirring loose strands of hair. She carries wolf blood, diluted perhaps, but it lives. And she belongs with her own. My thoughts reeled. Wolf blood. My parents, Corin and Valus, had always seemed so ordinary. Yet now memories burned their way back, my mother warning me never to remove my pendant. Her fear of the full moon, the way both of them went silent whenever. Howls echoed in the distance. I'm not going anywhere, I said, finally, my voice shaking but steady. The moondrain pulsed warm against my skin, as though it had a will of its own. Tavren stepped closer until the torchlight caught the flecks of gold swimming in his amber eyes. Something shifted there, not softness but awareness. You have no choice, little one. His voice dropped, meant for my ears alone. Forces are awakening in these mountains, ancient things that would tear you apart if they find you first. I'm not safe with you. Either, I managed the words escaping before I could think. His lips curved, half smile, half threat. No, he said sadly. You're not safe with me. His tone deepened to almost a growl. But you'll live. He turned his gaze on the villagers, his voice ringing like a command of nature itself. This woman comes under my protection by ancient right. Anyone who interferes will answer to the pack. Eldon Grey, the mayor, stepped forward, clinging to a fragile shred of authority. My lord, please, we must discuss. There is nothing to discuss. Tavren's voice rumbled through the air, vibrating in my bones. She was hidden among you. Once, perhaps for her safety. But that time is over. The mountains stir. Old enemies rise. She must be where she can be defended. He turned and began walking toward the open gates, knowing I would follow. His warriors spread across the square like shadows made flesh, their presence silencing any thought of resistance. Serene clutched my hands, tears streaking her cheeks. Nira, no. You can't go with him. I'll come back, I whispered, though the lie burned on my tongue. I'll find out what this means and I'll come back. The moon drain thrummed against my chest, alive with strange energy, as Tavren paused beneath the torchlight and looked back at me, impatience carved into his face. Standing between my human sister and the creature who claimed I was his kin, I felt my entire world shift, my identity splintering under the weight of something ancient and unstoppable. With trembling hands, I pulled Serene into one last embrace. I'll find the truth, I promised. Take care of yourself until I do. When I turned toward Tavren, the crowd parted around me as if I had already become something other than human. Every step toward him felt like crossing a threshold into darkness, a darkness that somehow felt like destiny. You're not safe with me, Tavren murmured, again as I reached him, his eyes glowing in the flicker of firelight. But nothing that tries to harm you will be either. Without another word, he turned and strode into the forest. I followed my pulse, matching the rhythm of his steps as the shadows swallowed us both. What had looked like an endless wall of darkness from the village now shimmered with faint life, the glow of blue fungi on ancient trunks, the gleam of unseen eyes, the rustle of something vast moving in the undergrowth. Tavren moved through it, like a man walking through his own memories. I stumbled after him, my thin shoes no match for the rough ground. None of the warriors spoke. They moved with eerie grace, forming a loose circle that shifted silently through the trees. Now and then, one would vanish into the gloom, only to reappear from an impossible direction. They spoke a language of gestures, Howls, subtle tilts of the head. My thoughts spun with questions. Wolf blood. Had my parents known? Was this why we'd lived in isolation all those years? The moon drain pulsed again, half burden, half comfort. Tavren hadn't spoken since we left the village, but I could feel his attention, a steady weight at my back. When I stumbled, he slowed. When I lagged too far, he paused. It wasn't kindness. It was possession. After what felt like hours, my legs burned and my lungs ached in the thin mountain air. Finally, the trees broke open into a clearing, washed in silver moonlight. Tavren stopped, turning to face me for the first time since we'd entered the forest. Rest, he commanded, voice low yet carrying through the night. We stay here for a while. I sank onto a fallen log, trying to hide my exhaustion. One of the warriors, Taron, I thought, handed me a water skin without meeting my eyes. The liquid was cool and strange, tasting faintly of herbs and something sweet. Thank you, I murmured, but he'd already melted back into the shadows. Silence wrapped around us again, broken only by the whispers of the night. Tavren stood still, his silhouette stark against the stars, as his gaze fixed on the distant peaks. Where are you taking me? I asked finally. My voice small against the vastness. He turned his head slightly, profile sharp in the moonlight. Home. That's not an answer. A sound rumbled deep in his chest, half growl, half laugh. To the heart of my territory, Black Crest Keep. I'd heard the name in hushed tones. A fortress carved into the mountain, ancient and unreachable. A place humans feared even to imagine. And then what? I pressed, arms wrapped around myself. Am I your prisoner? Tavren turned fully toward me, the gold in his eyes burning brighter. You are to be protected. Protected from what? He stepped closer, the distance between us vanishing like breath in the cold. From those who would use you, he said, each word heavy as fate. From those who would destroy what you represent, Tavren said. And what exactly do I represent? My voice cracked, betraying the fear I tried to hide. He crouched before me, bringing those piercing amber eyes level with mine. Up close, he was almost two perfect sharp cheekbones, flawless symmetry. Not a trace of human imperfection. There was something unearthly in how still he could be, like a predator waiting for the world to move first. Hope, he said simply. The possibility of balance between worlds that have been apart for too long. Before I could speak again, Tavren rose in one fluid motion. His head turned slightly, as if catching a sound that none of us could hear. Around us, his warriors tensed instantly, hands sliding toward their weapons, eyes scanning the trees. "We're being followed," Tavren announced, his voice flat and cold, his gaze locked on mine, narrowing. "Your village sends hunters." My chest tightened. "They're coming for me. They're coming to die," he corrected calmly. Unless he stepped closer, extending a hand toward me. "Stand." I hesitated, then placed my trembling fingers into his palm. His skin burned hot as live flame, but he didn't flinch. With effortless strength, he pulled me to my feet and reached toward the moon drain, resting at my throat. I recoiled, my hand closing protectively around it. "I won't take it," he said, impatience flickering in his tone. "But you need to understand what it is." Reluctantly, I loosened my grip, allowing him to lift the pendant without removing it from my neck. Under his touch, the silver crescent shimmered, brighter heat blooming through my skin. "Your mother's legacy," Tavren murmured, voice almost reverent. "A moonstone wrapped in silver, blessed by the first Alpha Queen. It hides your true nature, suppresses the wolf blood running through your veins." His eyes rose to meet mine. "It's protected you all these years. But it's also kept you blind." "My mother was human," I said, though the certainty in my words cracked apart. His smile was sharp and humorless. "Your mother fled the pack 25 years ago. She carried royal blood and chose exile, chose to live among humans, chose to taint her bloodline with a mortal mate." His voice hardened. "But blood calls to blood, especially royal blood. When she died, the protection around you weakened. I felt your awakening 3 moons ago." The world tilted. "That's impossible," I whispered. "She would have told me." "Would she?" Tavren released the pendant, letting it fall against my chest. "Or would she have kept you ignorant to keep you safe?" His head lifted again, listening. "Your villagers approach. 6 men armed but frightened. Your sister leads them." My heart lurched. "Serene, please," I whispered, "don't hurt them." Something flickered behind his eyes. Calculation, not compassion. "Their lives for your cooperation," he offered. "Come willingly without resistance, and I'll let them live." "You would have taken me anyway," I said quietly. "Yes," he admitted. "But their deaths would have been certain. Now you hold the power to spare them. Choose." The moon drain pulsed against my skin like a heartbeat warning or urging, I couldn't tell. I saw Serene's face in my mind, fierce and determined, even when terrified. She would fight. She would die for me. "I'll go," I said at last, my voice steady. "But I want to speak to them first. They deserve to know I'm not being dragged away." Tavren studied me for a long moment, then gave a curt nod. "Under guard." Moments later, the forest erupted with movement as Serene burst into the clearing. Coran the blacksmith, close behind her, with 4 other men, clutching hunting bows and pitchforks. They froze when they saw us, me standing beside the Alpha King, surrounded by wolves. Nira Serene's voice broke. "Step away from him." Tavren's hand came down on my shoulder. A silent, unmistakable claim. My body stiffened, but I didn't move. "Serene," I called, forcing calm into my voice. "It's all right. I'm going willingly." Her face twisted in disbelief. "What are you saying? These creatures..." I swallowed hard. "They're my blood." The word felt foreign and heavy on my tongue. Tavren allowed me a few steps forward, though his eyes never left me. I stopped just short of my sister, close enough to whisper without drawing the wolf's attention. "Listen to me," I said urgently. "There's something about me, something I never knew. Mother kept secrets, Serene. Big ones." Her eyes flicked to the pendant at my throat. "What kind of secrets?" "The kind that will get you killed if you try to interfere." I gripped her hands tightly. "I need to know the truth. I can't find it here. I'm not saying goodbye, just asking you to wait for me." Tears glistened down her face. "How do I know they won't kill you once you're gone?" "If they wanted me dead, they'd have done it already," I said, though my heart faltered on the words. "Tavren says I'm valuable." Serene's expression hardened. "As what?" "His prisoner. His slave." Her voice cracked. "His mate." The words sent a shiver straight through me. I couldn't answer. "I don't know," I admitted. "But if you fight them, you'll die, and I can't lose you too." A low growl rolled across the clearing, a warning from the wolves. Time was running out. Serene threw her arms around me, holding tight. "3 moons," she whispered fiercely against my hair. "I'll give you 3 moons to return or send word. After that, I'll come for you, even if I have to burn down their keep." I clutched her just as tightly. 3 moons, I whispered back. "Now go. Please, before he changes his mind." Reluctantly, she stepped back. The men looked to her, uncertain, but she straightened her spine. "We're leaving," she said, her voice trembling only slightly as she met Tavren's gaze. "But remember this, she is loved. She is missed, and she is expected to return." Tavren's face remained unreadable. "Your village has sheltered pack blood for generations. Consider the debt repaid with her." Serene's jaw tightened, but she said nothing more. With one last desperate look at me, she turned and led the others away into the dark. I watched until the trees swallowed them, feeling the ache in my chest deepen, until it almost broke me. "That was wise," Tavren said beside me, his presence silent until it wasn't. "You saved lives tonight." I turned to him, anger replacing fear. "Don't pretend I had a choice." He studied me for a long, still moment, the faintest trace of amusement curling at the corner of his mouth. "There are always choices, little wolf," he said softly. "Some just come with steeper consequences than others." "Don't call me that," I snapped before I could stop myself. "I'm not a wolf." Something dark flickered in Tavren's eyes. Danger, interest, challenge. "No." His tone carried quiet menace. "Then explain this." Before I could react, he seized my wrist, turning it into the moonlight. Just below my elbow, the small crescent-shaped mark I'd had all my life shimmered faintly, as if the silver light itself recognized me. "It's just a birthmark," I said, though my voice betrayed doubt. "The mark of the royal bloodline," Tavren countered. "Your mother bore the same as did her mother before her. It responds to moonlight, to the presence of the pack, to your awakening." His thumb brushed the mark, and a shock of sensation shot up my arm like lightning. "The pendant hides it," he murmured, glancing at the moon drain around my neck, "but it cannot silence what's in your veins." I yanked my hand back, shaken by both his words and the way my body reacted to his touch. "Even if what you say is true, and I'm not saying I believe you. What do you want from me? Why bring me here? Because war is coming," Tavren said simply, as if stating the weather. "The eastern packs grow restless, testing borders that have held for centuries. The balance between human lands and wolf territory weakens. Old enemies stir in the mountains." His gaze met mine, intense and unyielding. "And prophecy speaks of one born of both worlds, one who will either unite us or destroy us all." The air between us thickened. "And you think that's me?" I asked incredulously. "That's insane. I'm just a village girl. Are you—" His voice softened, almost amused. He stepped closer, so near that the heat of him brushed my skin. "Then tell me, why does your pulse quicken when I stand near? Why does your scent shift under the moon? Why did the forest call to you when your human kin feared it? His words struck deep, uncomfortably close to truths I'd always ignored. Since childhood, I had felt the forest's pull, its sounds, its silence, its strange comfort. The moon had always stirred something wild and aching inside me. I need time, I whispered, overwhelmed. Time to understand this. Something almost compassion softened his features. Time, he said, quietly, is the one thing we have the least of, Nira Ashvale. But I'll give you what I can. He gestured toward the narrow mountain path ahead. Come. Blackcrest Keep awaits, and with it the answers you've spent your life searching for. We continued through the wilderness, the forest closing around us like a living, breathing creature. Tavren led with effortless dominance, cutting a path through the darkness as though it bent to his will. Despite everything, fear, anger, confusion, I found my eyes drawn to him. The way moonlight caught the dark strands of his hair, the quiet command in every movement. You're not safe with me, he'd said back in the village. I believed him. He was danger alive, breathing, irresistible. Yet as the pendant grew warm against my throat and the mark on my arm tingled faintly beneath my sleeve, I began to wonder if the real danger wasn't him, but what was waking inside me. Maybe after all these years of pretending to belong, I was finally walking toward the truth of who I was. Toward home. By dawn, gold and crimson light spilled over the jagged peaks as we climbed a steep, stony pass. We had traveled through the entire night, and though exhaustion burned through me, my body somehow adapted, stronger, faster, more resilient than I had ever known. There Tavren said at last, breaking the silence. He pointed to the distant ridge ahead, Blackcrest Keep. I followed his gaze and gasped. What I saw wasn't a fortress built atop the mountain, but one carved from it. Towers of pale stone rose seamlessly from the rock face, their curved arches and terraces blending into the mountain itself. Morning light struck countless windows, setting the entire keep aglow like a mirage made of gold and ice. It's beautiful, I breathed, before I could stop myself. Tavren glanced at me, the faintest flicker of approval crossing his sharp features. It has stood for 15 generations of Alphas, he said, built into the heart of the mountain. Not upon it, to remind us that we serve the land, not command it. As we drew closer, the sounds of life met my ears, distant hammering laughter, the low hum of voices. Smoke curled from chimneys. It wasn't just a fortress, it was a living world. The narrow path widened into a stone-paved road, smoothed by centuries of footsteps. Along the route, warriors appeared, massive men and women in dark leathers, each dropping to one knee as their alpha passed. Their eyes followed me with open curiosity, some wary, others reverent. They stare, I murmured uneasy. They sense what you are, Tavren replied without turning. Royal blood calls to the pack. Even diluted, it's still recognized. No one has seen a female of your lineage in 25 years, not since your mother fled. My heart twisted. I thought of Velis, gentle and quiet, who grew herbs and told bedtime stories about wolves and moons. How could she have come from this world of stone fire and ancient power? We passed through a towering gate etched with wolves and lunar symbols. Beyond lay a vast courtyard, alive with motion men and women training, carrying supplies, sharpening blades, tending fires. Every face bore that same fierce grace, that same sense of control and coiled strength. Conversation ceased as Tavren entered. The air shifted, a ripple of energy sweeping through the crowd. Alpha returns with the lost blood, someone called. Whispers spread like sparks. Faces turned. Hope, raw and almost fearful, moved among them like wind. Then from the front of the crowd, a tall woman stepped forward. Silver threaded through her dark braid, her bearing regal, her presence commanding. She wore no crown, but authority radiated from her every movement. Brother, she greeted Tavren with a measured nod. So the rumors were true. Rumors, Tavren said quietly, travel faster than feet. Yes, Myra, Tavren replied dryly. I found her. Myra's silver-flecked eyes swept over me like a blade, sharp, assessing, unflinching. She looks human. She isn't. Tavren's hand rested lightly at the small of my back, guiding me forward. Nira Ashvale, daughter of Veilus Moonblood, the last female of the royal line before you. The name struck like a blow. Veilus. My mother's true name, so different from the simple Eleanor she'd used in our village. Hearing it aloud reopened every wound of loss, but also carved new ones, for it spoke of a life, a history I'd never been allowed to know. Mara's gaze softened just slightly. You have her eyes, she said quietly, gray like storm clouds gathering over the peaks. She turned to Tavren. The council will want to see her immediately. The council will wait, he said, his tone brooking no argument. She's traveled all night. She needs rest. Food, clean clothing. His eyes swept the watching crowd, and privacy. Without another word, he led me toward the towering entrance doors, massive slabs of dark wood carved with wolves howling under a full moon. When they swung open, a rush of cool scented air enveloped me. Inside the keep felt alive, the air thick with the scent of pine fire and stone. The hall branched into several corridors, lit by tall slit windows and iron sconces holding oil lamps. Myra followed silently, her footsteps whispering over the flagstones. The eastern wing is prepared, she informed Tavren crisply. As I ordered, he replied, not slowing. We passed through a labyrinth of corridors I knew I'd never find my way through alone. The keep was unlike anything I'd ever imagined, part fortress, part sanctuary. High ceilings soared above us, their arches carved with intricate runes and depictions of wolves running beneath a bleeding moon. Paintings of forest, rivers, and mountains adorned the walls, art created by a people who loved their land as fiercely as they ruled it. Beauty lived here, not just power. We climbed a sweeping staircase to an upper level where thick woven rugs muffled our steps and tapestries of crimson and gold softened the cold stone walls. Myra opened a heavy oak door, and I froze on the threshold. The room before me took my breath away. Sunlight poured through tall arched windows, spilling across a vast chamber filled with warmth and quiet splendor. A massive bed stood against one wall, draped in furs and linens, the color of snow and sky. A hearth crackled invitingly, throwing soft amber light across carved furniture and a small sitting area. Beyond a stone archway, I glimpsed a bathing chamber gleaming with polished copper. These were your mother's rooms, Tavren said quietly. Before she left, I stepped inside as though in a dream, fingertips brushing the smooth wood of the bedpost. Had she stood here, looked through these windows, watched the sunrise from this very spot? Had she been happy here before she ran? Food will be brought shortly, Myra said briskly from the doorway. And proper clothing. Her critical gaze swept over my torn village dress, now caked with dust and forest dirt. I'll send Iron to attend you. I don't need an attendant, I said automatically. Myra's brow lifted. You'll find Nira Ashvale, that many things you think you don't need will become necessary soon enough. With that enigmatic warning, she turned and left. Tavren remained, his presence filling the room heavy and alive. The silence between us hummed. Why did she leave? I asked at last, my voice barely above a whisper. If my mother was important, why would she abandon all this? Tavren's expression darkened. That's not a story to tell when you can barely stand. I deserve answers. My words came out sharper than intended, but anger steadied me. You dragged me from my home, told me everything I knew was a lie, and brought me here among strangers. I earned the right to know why. He studied me for a long moment, then exhaled softly, a strangely human gesture for a man who seemed carved from iron. Your mother was promised to my father, he said finally. Ravrik Wolfveil, the Alpha King before me. A union arranged to merge two royal bloodlines. But she fell in love with one of her guards, a warrior she was forbidden to have. The words hit me like stones thrown into deep water. When my father discovered them, Tavren continued quietly, he executed the man for treason. Publicly. His eyes held mine, unflinching. That night your mother fled, taking not only her freedom but the heirloom meant for her bloodline. His gaze flicked toward my throat. The moon drain. I sat heavily on the edge of the bed, the world tilting. And the man who raised me, Corin, he was. A human, Tavren said, dismissing him with a flicker of indifference. He would have known nothing of her true nature. The pendant masked her wolf entraily. To him she was merely a beautiful, mysterious woman seeking refuge. My hand found the silver crescent at my throat. It pulsed faintly warm against my skin. And this suppresses mine too. He stepped closer, his movements slow, deliberate, as though afraid to startle me. It keeps your wolf dormant, he said. But the blood grows stronger as you mature. Even with the pendant, the change would have come. What kind of change, I asked, voice low. He held my gaze. Heightened senses, strength, dreams of running beneath the moon on 4 legs instead of 2, the call of the shift. His voice deepened. Without guidance, without understanding, it would have driven you mad. In your village, they would have called you cursed. Dangerous. My throat tightened. He wasn't wrong. In a place like mine, fear ruled faster than reason. So you think you rescued me? I said bitterly. I claim nothing so noble, Tavren replied evenly. I need you, Nira Ashvale. The pack needs you. Your bloodline, your very existence, is the key to survival. He paced toward the window, staring out over the mountain peaks wreathed in dawn mist. The Eastern packs have united under a new Alpha One who believes humans should kneel, not coexist. One who calls the royal bloodline weak for clinging to peace. He turned back toward me, eyes burning gold. But prophecy speaks of one born of 2 worlds, half royal wolf, half human, who will unite all packs beneath a new covenant, a bridge between kingdoms. His voice dropped to a near whisper. And that bridge is you. I let out a small, disbelieving laugh. And you think that's me? I'm not a leader. I'm not a warrior. I'm just some village girl who grows herbs and tells stories to kids. Something softened in Tavren's eyes, not pity, but understanding. What you are has been hidden from you your entire life, he said quietly, stepping closer, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate in my chest. Even from yourself. He extended his hand again. May I? I cautiously. I placed my fingers in his palm. That familiar heat radiated through his skin, not fever, but something natural to his kind. Wolves ran hotter than humans, it seemed. He turned my hand, his thumb brushing lightly over the small crescent birthmark beneath my wrist. Royal blood, he murmured. In you flows the legacy of both the first pack and humankind. Neither fully one nor the other, but something entirely new. His gaze lifted to mine, molten gold catching the firelight. The moon drain doesn't just hide what you are, it limits what you could become. And what is that supposed to be? I whispered. Remove it, he said simply, and find out. Fear and curiosity warred within me. My mother had made me swear never to take the pendant off, never especially during a full moon. But she had also kept my entire identity a secret. What else had she hidden? Before I could decide, a soft knock echoed at the door. Tavren stepped back instantly, his expression closing like a shutter. Your attendant, he said flatly. Eat, rest, and make yourself ready. The council will see you before sundown. He moved to the door, then paused. The pendant is your choice, Nira, but understand this, your choice will shape far more than your own fate. He opened the door, revealing a young woman balancing a tray of food and folded clothing. She was barely older than me, her skin warm brown, her tightly curled hair arranged in an intricate knot at the nape of her neck. Upon seeing Tavren, she froze and bowed deeply. My lord, see to her needs, Iron, he commanded. She's to be treated according to her bloodline. His eyes flicked toward me one last time. I'll return before the council convenes. Then he was gone, and the room felt both emptier and easier to breathe in. Iron lingered near the door, watching me with open curiosity. "You can come in," I said, trying for humor, though my voice cracked. "I don't bite?" A startled laugh escaped her. "That's not usually the concern around here," she replied, setting the tray near the fire. "Most of us do bite at least once a month." Her tone was casual, but her words made my stomach tighten. "You're one of them, a werewolf." Her brow arched. "We don't use that word. It's crude. We are wolf shifters, or simply pack." She unfolded the garments on the bed, soft leggings, a finely woven blue tunic, boots of supple leather. "And yes, I'm pack. Though not of royal blood like you, I'm not." I began, then stopped. The denial felt hollow even to me. Everything I'd seen, everything I'd felt since leaving the village, made it harder to cling to the life I once believed was mine. "I don't know what I am anymore." Iron's expression softened. "You're Veilus Moonblood's daughter. Returned to us after 25 years. That's enough for most." She nodded toward the food. "Eat before it gets cold. The mountain trails take their toll even on full-blooded shifters." At the sight of food, my hunger roared awake. The tray held a steaming stew, rich with herbs and root vegetables, bread still warm from the oven, and slices of fruit that gleamed like jewels. I ate greedily, realizing only when my bowl was nearly empty just how starved I'd been. Iron worked quietly as I ate, moving about the chamber to prepare the bathing room. The scent of herbs and oils drifted through the air, soothing and sharp. "Why you?" I asked after a moment. "Why send you to attend me?" She paused, considering. "Because I knew your mother," she said softly. "Not well. I was a child when she left, but I remember her. She used to tell stories in the great hall during winter nights. Even the fiercest warriors would fall silent when she spoke." A small smile touched her lips. Mara thought a familiar face, even one you wouldn't recall, might ease your transition. "Myra," I repeated. "Tavren's sister." Iron nodded. "The pack's second and head of the council. She's guided us through dark years since the old Alpha's death." A flicker of hesitation crossed her face before she added, "Some say she should have been Alpha herself if she'd been born male." I tucked that away in my mind, one more piece of the growing puzzle. "And Tavren?" I asked cautiously. "What kind of leader is he?" Her expression turned guarded. "It's not my place to speak of the Alpha," she said carefully. "But know this. He's held the borders against our enemies for 5 years, without a single breach. The pack prospers under him, even as threats gather beyond our lands." Before I could press further, she gestured toward the adjoining room. "Your bath is ready, my lady." "Do you require assistance?" "No, thank you," I said quickly. "And please just call me Nira. I'm not a my lady. Anything." Iron's smile returned, genuine this time. "As you wish, Nira. But the council will not be so informal." The bathing chamber stole my breath. A great copper tub gleamed before a small fireplace filled with steaming pine-scented water. Light streamed through a narrow window carved into the stone wall, catching on shelves lined with oils and herbs. I sank into the warmth with a sigh, the heat soaking away the ache of travel. My gaze drifted to the faint silver crescent on my arm. Under the flickering firelight, it glimmered faintly, almost alive. The pendant doesn't just hide what you are. It limits what you could become. Tavren's words echoed in my mind as I touched the moon drain, tracing its worn edges. My mother had fled this place, these people, this destiny. She had buried the truth so deeply that even I had grown up blind to it. Had she done it to protect me, or to protect herself? Was I walking the same path she had once run from as the warmth seeped into my bones? I made a decision. I wouldn't take the pendant off. Not yet. Not until I understood this world and the man who ruled it. Not until I knew whether Tavren Wolfveil meant to shield me or to claim me. His words haunted me still. "You're not safe with me." I believed him. Perhaps the greatest danger wasn't what Tavren might do to me, but what I might become, if the blood he spoke of was truly mine. The council chamber lay at the very heart of Wolfveil Keep, carved deep into the mountain's living stone. 7 high-backed chairs curved in a semicircle atop a raised dais, each engraved with its own wolf hunting howling, running beneath a scatter of stars. Behind them, an enormous stained glass window caught the last gold of sunset, scattering color across the gray floor. I stood before them, painfully aware of how out of place I looked, despite the elegant blue tunic and boots Iron had given me. My freshly washed hair, pale and soft down my shoulders, glimmered like moonlight against their darker tones. Around my throat, the moon drain hung heavy, a secret that had begun to feel more like a chain. At the center sat Tavren Wolfveil. Every inch the Alpha King, even in simplicity. His black tunic bore only a silver wolf clasp, yet his presence eclipsed all the ornate silks and jewels surrounding him. At his right sat Nira, her silver-streaked hair woven into a crown-like braid, her calm gaze sharp as glass. Around them sat the rest of the council, 3 men, 2 women, all with the unmistakable intensity of the pack, some curious, some openly skeptical. Nira Ashvale. Nira's voice rang clear, filling the circular chamber. Daughter of Valus Moonblood of the royal line, and of Corin Lawson of Riverview Village. Her pause was deliberate, a subtle nod to the mixture in my veins. "You stand before the council of Blackest Pack." I inclined my head, uncertain of the formalities. "I'm honored," I said, steadying my voice. A low scoff echoed from the far left. "She looks human enough," one man remarked dryly, his tone making human sound like filth. "What proof have we beyond a birthmark and your word?" Alpha Tavren's golden eyes turned toward him, the air shifting with quiet danger. "Do you question my word, Varric?" The man stiffened, lowering his gaze. "Never, my lord. I merely seek clarity for the record. The bloodline cannot be forged." Nira cut in smoothly. "Even diluted royal blood bears markers no wolf can mimic." She gestured toward me. The crescent mark, the scent beneath her pendant, the resonance in her presence, it all confirms her lineage. The older woman seated nearest Nira Saelra spoke next, her tone thoughtful rather than hostile. "And yet she wears the moondrain, the very relic that suppresses what she is." "By choice," Tavren said, "as is her right." A ripple of surprise moved through the council. "You haven't ordered her to remove it?" Selra asked, genuinely curious. "I do not command what must be freely given." Tavren replied, his gaze locking with mine. "The prophecy speaks of willing unity, not forced obedience." That word again, prophecy. The thing they all seemed to orbit around. I drew a slow breath and forced my voice to remain steady. "If this prophecy concerns me," I said, "then I have a right to hear it." The chamber fell silent. Tavren's mouth curved slightly. Not quite a smile, but close. Nira exchanged glances with Saelra, who gave a small nod. "It is her birthright to know," Saelra affirmed. Nira rose, gliding to a stone pedestal set to one side. Upon it rested an ancient tome bound in weathered wolf hide, its edges worn smooth by generations of hands. She opened it reverently to a marked page. From the Book of Moon Cycles, written during the reign of the first Alpha Queen, she said, her voice adopting a solemn rhythm. "When blood divides and ancient foes rise from shadow, look to the one who bridges 2 worlds, half moon, blessed, half earthborn. In their veins lies power to unite or to destroy. Only through willing sacrifice shall balance be restored." The pendant surrendered. The wolf embraced the human heart. Preserve this trinity alone will turn back the darkness beneath the blood moons rising. The room held its breath as Nira closed the book with quiet reverence. "This prophecy has endured 15 generations, she explained, returning to her seat. Many dismissed it as myth until your mother fled, taking with her the only heir of royal blood and the sacred pendant meant to pass from queen to daughter. For 25 years, we believed the prophecy lost, added Saelra. Until 3 moons ago, when the Alpha sensed royal blood awaken beyond our borders, at the same time, Varric Hollowend rose in the eastern territories. A man with a jagged scar from temple to jaw leaned forward. Draven. His voice was rough. The timing cannot be coincidence. I felt my pulse hammer. Varric. He's the threat you mentioned. The reason I supposedly need protection? Tavren's eyes burned with quiet intensity. Varric Hollowend has united 3 eastern pacts through blood and terror. He rejects the old pacts between wolves and humans. He seeks dominion wolves ruling as hunters, humans as prey. And he loathes those of mixed blood. His jaw tightened. He calls them abominations. He's coming here, I asked, the words barely leaving my throat. Our scouts report skirmishes at the borders weekly, Draven said. Each one bolder than the last. We believe he plans a full assault during the next blood moon, 17 days. The same celestial event from the prophecy, the same omen hanging over my head. I swallowed hard. Even if that prophecy refers to me, I said, slowly, I don't see how I could help you. I'm no warrior. I know nothing of your politics, your wars, your shifting. Myra's gaze softened. And yet, you alone carry both bloodlines, she said. And you bear the Moondrain, the pendant named in the prophecy itself. The prophecy also speaks of sacrifice, I countered. What does that mean? The council exchanged uneasy glances. It was Tavren who finally answered. The pendant must be removed willingly, he said, his tone low, final. Your wolf nature must awaken, must shift for the first time. Yet the greatest danger, Tavren warned, was not in what others might do to me, but in what I might become if I denied what I truly was. You must keep your human heart, he said, his voice deep and steady. Your compassion, your connection to both worlds. Balance between them, not domination of one. And if I refuse, I asked, though I already sensed the answer. Draven, the scarred counselor, didn't hesitate. Then Varric will break through our borders. He'll butcher those who resist, enslave the rest, and wage war on humankind. It will spread like wildfire. Selra, the elder woman, spoke next, her tone weighted with sorrow. Our seers have seen it, hundreds of thousands dead, both wolf and human. The balance that's kept peace for centuries will be lost. Their words pressed down on me, suffocating in their gravity. Only days ago I had been a village girl who brewed herbs and told stories by candlelight. Now somehow I was the thread between worlds, the supposed key to salvation. I need time, I whispered, struggling to breathe under the weight of it all. To think. To understand what you're really asking. Time, Myra said softly, is the one thing we lack. The blood moon comes soon. Tavren rose from his chair, and even that simple movement silenced the room. 3 days, he declared. Nira Ashvale will have 3 days to learn our ways, to understand her bloodline, and to decide of her own free will. His gaze swept the chamber like a blade. Until then, she is under my personal protection. Anyone who pressures her decision will face exile. The power in his voice left no room for argument. Even those who clearly disagreed bowed their heads. This council is adjourned. Myra announced, her tone crisp but respectful. Nira Ashvale will be given all that she requires to make her choice. When the chamber emptied, Tavren descended the dais and approached me. Up close, his sheer presence was almost physical, warm, consuming, and unyielding. You did well, he murmured, voice pitched low enough for me alone. They expected fear or defiance. You gave them calm. I don't appreciate being used, I said, keeping my voice quiet but firm. You brought me here, laid out your prophecy, and now you're pretending my choice matters when it feels like everything's already been written. A faint flicker of respect passed over his features. You see more clearly than most who've lived among wolves their entire lives, he admitted. Yes, your coming was foreseen, prepared for, but not fabricated. He gestured toward a narrow passage off to the side. Walk with me. It wasn't quite a command, but I followed him nonetheless. The corridor spiraled upward through the mountain stone walls, cold against the flickering torchlight. The wind howled faintly through hidden vents like distant voices whispering. When we finally emerged onto a terrace carved into the cliffside, the sky was ablaze with the dying fire of sunset. The view stole my breath, peaks veiled in gold and violet clouds rimmed in crimson. The air was thin, clean, sharp as crystal. Tavren leaned on the stone railing, his hair lifting in the alpine wind, softening his otherwise hard face. My father ruled through fear, he said suddenly, his voice quieter now. He believed obedience was loyalty. When your mother refused the marriage he arranged, he saw it as treason. He looked toward the horizon. He sent hunters after her for years. They never found her. Because she had the moon drain, I guessed. He nodded once. It doesn't just hide what we are, it severs the link between pack members. Our kind can sense each other over miles, but she made herself invisible. My father never forgave that failure. His jaw clenched. It consumed him. And yet somehow you found me, I said quietly. Not you specifically. Tavren corrected. When a wolf of royal blood nears their 25th year, their power stirs no matter what binds it. The pendant's magic weakens. I felt your presence 3 moons ago, distant but unmistakable. His eyes met mine, steady and burning. Royal blood calls to royal blood, especially between potential mates. The word mates hung between us, heavy and electric. I turned toward the mountains, pretending the chill air could cool the heat that rose in me. You talk about my wolf like she's a stranger living inside me, I said finally. Is that what it's like for all of you? He took a moment before answering. Not separate, he said, just another side of you. The human thinks, the wolf feels. One plans, the other acts. In the beginning they clash, but with time they learn to move as one. And if I remove the pendant, I asked. Your first shift will come quickly, he said honestly. Without preparation, it will be hard, painful. But if you choose it, you won't go through it alone. I blinked at him, caught off guard. Why would you help me? You've made it clear. I'm important for political reasons because of this prophecy. Why personally involve yourself? Something flickered behind his gaze. Something almost human. Because no one should face their first transformation alone, he said quietly. Your mother did, and it nearly killed her. What do you mean? He hesitated, his voice lowering. Before she fled, Velis tried to awaken her wolf without help, without ritual, without guidance. It broke her. When Maera found her, she was trapped half human, half wolf for 3 days. Maera helped her through it. But after that, she ran. I stared at him, trying to reconcile the image of the woman who'd raised me with the one he described. Had her suffering made her stronger, or had it destroyed her? Your mother was brave, Tavren said at last. Stubborn, reckless, but brave. She chose love over power, freedom over the crown. His eyes locked with mine, steady and burning, like the last light over the peaks. And for one terrifying moment, I couldn't tell whether he admired her or feared I might do the same. The question lingered in the air whether Velis's daughter possessed the same courage to choose her own fate, no matter what that choice might be. The dying light of the sunset painted Tavren's face in gold and shadow, softening his sharpness, turning the fierce Alpha into something almost human. For a fleeting moment, I saw the man beneath the crown, the warrior, stripped of command and expectation. I need to see more, I said finally. Of your world, of your people. I can't decide anything based only on prophecy and politics. He inclined his head as though my answer pleased him. You shall. Beginning tomorrow, you'll witness every part of pack life, the training fields, the nurseries, the healers' halls, the hunts. Nothing will be hidden from you. A faint curve touched his lips. Consider it an education in the birthright denied you for 22 years. As the sun vanished behind the peaks, he led me back into the mountain keep through torch-lit halls where the air hummed faintly with life. Voices echoed in the distance, laughter, clattering dishes, the sound of a people unafraid of the night. "Will you join us for dinner?" Tavren asked as the corridor forked. The thought of facing 100 curious faces made my stomach twist. "Not tonight," I said quietly. "I'm still processing." He nodded, accepting my refusal without judgment. "Then I'll have food brought to your chambers." We walked in silence, and I noticed how every pack member we passed lowered their eyes in deference, some bowing to Tavren, others sneaking glances at me, curiosity glinting in their eyes before they looked away. When we reached my door, he stopped at the threshold, his tall frame casting long shadows across the stone. "One more thing," he said, voice low, almost gentle. "Whatever you choose, it must be yours. Not for the pack, not for prophecy, not even for the ghost of your mother." His golden eyes seemed to burn softly in the half-light. "Follow what your heart demands, Nira Ashvale. Only that will bring balance." And with those words he turned and disappeared into the dark corridor, his presence fading, like a storm passing into silence. Inside my chamber, a fire already glowed in the hearth, warm and steady. Fresh flowers, wild ones from the mountain slopes, had been arranged on the table. Comfort carefully placed in a world that still felt foreign. A knock sounded soon after. Iron entered, balancing a tray laden with roasted meat, spiced vegetables, and sweet bread, still warm from the ovens. She seemed eager to ask about the council meeting, but too polite to intrude. I shared what little I could, her company grounding me more than I expected. "Would you like me to stay?" she offered, collecting the empty dishes. "To help you prepare for rest." "No, thank you," I said, smiling for the first time that day. "I'll be fine." After she left, I wandered to the tall windows overlooking the moonlit valley. Clouds drifted like restless spirits, brushing the face of a nearly full moon. Shadows raced across the forest below, shifting fluid alive. Somewhere beyond those peaks lay the village I'd once called home. Serene would be waiting there, counting down the days she'd given me before sending others to bring me back. My fingers closed around the moon drain. Once it had been only a cherished keepsake from my mother. Now I understood it as both protection and prison, a silver cage, holding back a part of myself I'd never dared to meet. "Follow your heart," Tavren had said. But how could I when I wasn't sure who or what that heart belonged to? A faint warmth stirred beneath my skin. The crescent birthmark on my forearm glimmered, the silvery lines pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. Outside, the clouds broke, flooding the chamber with pale moonlight. Something inside me stirred ancient patient waiting. Not a thought, not emotion, something deeper. For the first time I allowed myself to wonder if everything they'd told me was true, if beneath my human skin a wolf had always been waiting silent and half asleep. If this pendant had kept me safe by keeping me incomplete. The realization didn't frighten me. It simply was clear, unavoidable. Whatever decision I made in the days ahead would change me forever. There was no path back to the girl who once tended herbs and whispered stories by the fire. That version of me had died the moment Tavren Wolfveil spoke my true name. I turned from the window, exhaustion heavy in my bones. Tomorrow would bring new revelations, new truths. Tonight, I wanted only rest, the brief mercy of forgetting. But as I drifted into sleep, beneath the firs that had once belonged to Veilus, a single image haunted the edge of my dreams. Amber eyes watching from the shadows, the same eyes that had warned, "You're not safe with me." 3 days slipped past like a waking dream. True to his word, Tavren kept it all open to me, the world of wolves. I watched the warriors on the training grounds, their movements a blur of strength and grace, bodies shifting effortlessly between human and wolf. I stood among laughing children in the nurseries, awed by their innocent joy as they shifted mid-play. I visited the healer's chambers where herbs, magic, and instinct worked together to mend wounds that would have killed any human. Myra guided me most days, her reserved nature softening as she spoke of pack history and of my mother's youth. "You have her curiosity," she said once, amusement glinting in her eyes. "And her stubborn streak," she added when I insisted on rising before dawn to watch the hunters depart. Iron remained close, teaching me the subtler customs, the gestures of respect, the hierarchies, the rituals. Through her patient explanations, I began to see how their world thrived on balance and instinct rather than rules and fear. And always there was Tavren, sometimes watching from afar, sometimes walking beside me. His presence unsettled me, yet I found myself seeking it all the same. There was something magnetic, ancient, and inevitable in the way our paths kept crossing, as if some force beneath the skin of the world drew us together. On the evening of the third day, as the sky bled crimson over the mountains, Tavren stood beside me on the ramparts. "The blood moon rises tomorrow night," he said quietly. And though the words were simple, I felt them like a promise and a warning. The setting sun turned the mountains into a blaze of crimson and gold, casting the world in light that felt both sacred and foreboding. "Varric Hollowend's scouts were sighted less than a day from our borders," Tavren said quietly as we walked along the ridge. The words should have filled me with fear, but instead I felt an eerie calm, the kind that had begun to settle in me since the wolf inside first stirred. "You think he'll strike under the blood moon?" I asked. "It isn't coincidence," Tavren replied, his stride matching mine. "He knows you're here. His spies have likely reported your arrival. He'll try to kill you before your blood can awaken, or capture you to stop us from fulfilling the prophecy." The matter-of-fact tone with which he spoke of my death or imprisonment should have terrified me. Instead, I found myself analyzing his words, strategizing. Maybe the wolf in me was already rising despite the moon drain still resting against my throat. "Have you decided?" he asked, finally. We both knew what he meant. The choice that had lingered between us for days, whether to remove the pendant and embrace what I was, had shadowed every breath. "I've been thinking about my mother," I said instead, fingers brushing the cool silver at my neck. Why she ran, why she hid who she was from me. Something softened in his gaze. "And what do you think drove her?" "I think she wanted to protect me," I said quietly, "but also herself. She walked away from the life chosen for her. Maybe she was afraid I wouldn't have the same freedom if I ever knew the truth." Tavren studied me for a long moment. "And do you believe you have a choice now?" I stopped walking, facing him. "Everyone does. But choices come with consequences for us, and for everyone tied to us. If you keep the pendant," he said, his voice even Varric will attack regardless. "We'll defend our lands as we always have. Many will die. Perhaps we'll hold. Perhaps not. And if I remove it," his eyes darkened, "then your wolf awakens. The prophecy gives hope, not promise. But right now, hope is all we have." We walked in silence after that, the air sharp with pine and unspoken thoughts. The faces of the pack passed through my mind. The laughing children, the healers, the warriors who bled to protect their home, even Iron, who had quietly become a friend. They weren't symbols anymore. They were people. "It has to be tonight," I said, finally the words, leaving me before I could stop them. "If battle comes tomorrow, I need time to become whatever I'm meant to be." Tavren nodded, once his expression unreadable, though the tension in his shoulders eased. "Then it will be done. The sacred glade is prepared. It's where our kind meet their wolf for the first time." "Will it hurt?" I asked softly. "Yes." His honesty steadied me. "But you won't face it alone." As the sun sank and darkness swallowed the peaks, we descended into the forested valley below. A small group went with us. Nira calm and watchful, Cielra keeper of histories. 2 warriors, Veil and Nox, who moved like shadows among the trees. And Iron, who had pleaded to be there, her loyalty shining through her worry. The sacred glade lay hidden deep within an ancient grove of pines, ringed by towering monoliths etched with runes that shimmered faintly under the moonlight. At its center stood a smooth stone dais, glowing faintly in the rising red gleam of the blood moon. This place has witnessed the first shift of every royal wolf for 15 generations, Nira said as we stepped into the circle. The stones amplify the moon's pull. It will ease what comes. The air inside the glade vibrated thick with unseen energy. My skin prickled, and the crescent birthmark on my arm began to throb with warmth. The pendant at my neck grew heavier, almost resisting the power that pulsed through the clearing. What must I do? I asked, my voice trembling. Stand upon the dais, Thalor said, gently stepping forward with the ancient steadiness of a guide. Remove the moon drain by your own will. The rest will follow. Nira's expression softened, her voice low and almost tender. I'll be here as I was for your mother. The first shift is disorienting, terrifying, but don't fight it. Let it come. I nodded, my heart hammering as I climbed the 3 stone steps. The rock was warm under my bare feet, as though alive. They had asked me to wear only a simple white shift, something easily shed when the change began. Tavren stood at the edge of the circle watching. Our eyes met across the sacred space, and he inclined his head, once not commanding but recognizing. With shaking fingers, I unclasped the pendant. The chain slipped through my hands like water, and for the first time in my life I felt the weight of its absence. The crescent moonstone gleamed with its own light as it fell away from my skin. At first nothing happened. Then a searing heat bloomed from the mark on my arm, spreading outward in waves that stole the air from my lungs. My heart thundered. My vision sharpened painfully. Every sound, every breath, every heartbeat around me exploded into unbearable clarity. I dropped to my knees. The forest was alive inside me. The rustle of distant leaves, the soft scurry of a fox, the heartbeat of a deer hiding beyond the circle. I could smell everything: earth, pine, sweat, blood. The wild called to me, ancient and merciless. Breathe through it. Nira's voice reached me both near and far. The senses come first. Don't resist. Let it happen, Nira. A growl tore from my throat before I even realized it was mine. My skin burned, bones twisting beneath the surface like molten iron. Pain ripped through me, pure, brutal, endless. My back arched, my scream twisting into a sound that was no longer human. And under the crimson glow of the blood moon, the human part of me began to break. Stay with her. Nira's voice cut through the chaos, commanding and steady. She needs an anchor. Footsteps pounded against the stone. Then hands strong and unyielding gripped my shoulders as my body convulsed on the dais. Through eyes blurred with tears and firelight, I saw Tavren crouched beside me, his amber gaze burning like twin suns. Focus on me, he ordered, his tone a weapon, sharp enough to pierce the pain. Your body remembers. It knows what to do. It's your mind that's resisting. Another wave of agony ripped through me, every nerve alight, bones cracking and reshaping beneath my skin. I clutched his forearms, feeling claws, my claws pierce his flesh. Blood welled beneath my nails, but Tavren didn't flinch. I can't. The words broke into a scream. You can. He growled, his face inches from mine, every syllable pulsing with command and belief. Your mother did. Your grandmother did. This is your birthright, Nira Ashvale. Take it. Something in his voice, his certainty, cut through the panic. I stopped fighting. I let the fire swallow me whole. The world fractured into light, sound, and color, then reformed sharper and truer than it had ever been. The night exploded around me, every scent, every sound a living pulse. I gasped, but the sound that left me wasn't human. I stood on 4 legs, My skin was no longer skin, but fur pale gold, laced with silver, glowing faintly beneath the moonlight. The forest was alive in a way it had never been before. Every detail, every heartbeat, every rustle, every flicker of wind was carved into perfect clarity. And inside me, the wolf awoke. It wasn't another voice or presence. It was me, the part I'd buried, the pulse that had waited all my life to breathe. It didn't think in words, but in knowing instinct, emotion, and connection older than language itself. The wolf recognized Tavren not as king, not even as alpha, but as mate, leader, protector, Nira Ashvale, all registered as pack safe. She's extraordinary, Thalor whispered, awe filling the clearing. A royal white wolf. None have been born for 3 generations. I turned toward Tavren. He was still crouched where I'd left him, his eyes reflecting the silver light like mirrors. Without thought, I moved toward him, paused silent on the stone, the motion fluid and instinctive. She's magnificent, Iron breathed before Nira silenced her with a glance. Tavren didn't move as I circled him, inhaling his scent, ash pine, and something darkly magnetic. The wolf within me acknowledged his dominance, not in submission, but as complement, 2 forces balanced rather than opposed. The first shift is the hardest, Tavren said softly, voice low and steady. Returning will come easier, but not yet. Learn this form, know it. I rumbled deep in my throat, not a growl, but understanding. Then I stepped to the edge of the glade, testing the new rhythm of my body. What had once been unbearable pain now flowed like raw power. Every muscle, every instinct perfectly attuned. A howl echoed in the distance, low, urgent. I froze. Tavren's head snapped toward the sound. Riders, he said, eyes narrowing. From the east. Even before he spoke, I had smelled it, the tang of foreign wolves on the wind. Varric Hollowend. Fear sparked in my human mind, but the wolf remained still, focused, assessing, ready. I turned toward Tavren and held his gaze. He didn't need to ask what I wanted. He already knew. We must return to the keep, Nira said sharply. Prepare the defenses. She can't shift back yet, Thalor objected. The first transformation needs time to settle. Time we don't have. Tavren answered, his eyes still on me. But maybe she doesn't need to shift back. His voice lowered, almost reverent. The prophecy speaks of balance. The wolf embraced, the human heart retained. Maybe this is what it meant. I didn't speak, but the understanding passed between us in silence. In this form, I could see, smell, feel more than ever. My human mind and the wolf's instinct worked together, 2 sides of the same whole. Not human, not beast, both. Without hesitation, Tavren tore off his tunic and boots. A heartbeat later, his body rippled bones, shifting fur, spreading in a wave of black and silver. When the transformation ended, a massive dark wolf stood before me, larger than any I'd seen. Power radiating from him like heat. His amber eyes glowed with fierce intelligence. He nudged my shoulder once, a command, an invitation. Then he leapt forward into the forest. I followed. Our strides matched perfectly, our pace effortless. Wind whipped through my fur, the scents of pine and earth filling my lungs. Behind us, Nira and the others gathered the discarded clothing and the moon drain, their movements slow and fragile compared to our fluid run through the trees. We reached the keep long before them. The courtyard erupted in motion as wolves and warriors alike looked up to see 2 figures, one white, one black, emerging from the shadows. Tavren shifted back mid-stride, barking orders that echoed through the walls. I remained in my wolf form. It was easier this way to take in the chaos with sharpened senses instead of overwhelmed human thought. Warriors prepared for battle, some donning armor, others already. Half-shifted eyes blazing with purpose. Mothers hurried children toward the inner chambers while healers arranged herbs and bandages in the infirmary. Nira arrived breathless, Scouts confirm it. Varek himself leads the charge. 50 warriors. They'll reach the border before dawn. He felt the shift, Tavren said, grimly glancing toward me. He knows the prophecy has begun. The blood moon isn't until tomorrow, Selra reminded him. The prophecy speaks of that night. Prophecies don't follow the clock, Nira replied. It's the meaning that matters. Their words faded as a new scent hit me, sharp, distinct, impossible. I growled low, every hair along my spine rising. What is it? Tavren demanded, instantly alert. I couldn't answer in words. I didn't need to. I turned and sprinted toward the eastern wall, claws striking stone as I leapt atop the battlement. The night air tore through my fur. My heart thundered. The scent was stronger now, familiar, human. Home. And as the riders emerged from the tree line, I knew what my senses were telling me. Among Varek's wolves, among the enemy, was someone who carried my mother's scent. Among the ranks of wolves thundering in from the east, a single rider stood out, a human cloaked and trembling beneath the moonlight. But it wasn't her fear that made my blood run cold. It was her scent. Serene. The recognition hit like lightning. My sister. Tavren appeared beside me on this battlement, still in human form, following my gaze toward the dark tide of riders. You know someone among them? He said, not as a question, but as fact. I gave a sharp nod, frustration rising that I couldn't speak through this form. I forced my mind to recall the shape of human thoughts, the rhythm of human words. The shift came suddenly, pain flashing through my body, brief, jagged, but manageable this time. I gasped as my bones reformed and my skin returned. When I opened my eyes, I was kneeling on the cold stone once more, breathless and shaking. My sister, I managed, voice raw. It's Serene. She's with them. Iron was instantly at my side, wrapping a cloak around my shoulders. Tavren's expression hardened, eyes narrowing toward the distant movement. Then she's a hostage, he said grimly. Varek Hollowen uses such tactics. It's how he breaks spirits before battle. No. My throat burned. She told me she'd come for me after 3 moons if she didn't hear from me. It's barely been 1. She wouldn't have waited if she feared you were in danger, Nira said, stepping up beside us, the wind pulling her hair across her face. Varek's spies must have seen her preparing to leave the village. The realization struck like a blade twisting in my gut. They took her to use her against me. Tavren nodded once. He believes your loyalty to blood will undo you. He'll expect you to surrender, or come out alone. And he's right, I whispered, clutching the cloak tighter. I can't let him hurt her. Tavren's tone shifted, no longer purely protective, but sharp, commanding. Then we act before he does. The prophecy speaks of sacrifice and balance restored. Maybe this, he gestured toward the horizon, is what it meant. I stared at him. What are you saying? That we fulfill the prophecy on our terms, not his. That you stand between worlds, not as victim, but as choice itself. His voice deepened. You will face him, Nira, not as a prisoner, as an equal. You mean? Meet him, to challenge him, Tavren said. Alpha to alpha. For your sister's freedom. I'm not an alpha, I protested. You are royal blood, Nira interrupted. Shifted under the blood moon. By pack law, you hold the right to issue challenge when blood kin is endangered. Thaler joined them, her eyes solemn. Even Varek wouldn't dare deny such a challenge before his pack. It would shatter his authority faster than defeat. My mind spun logic and instinct clashing and blending in ways that now felt natural. But I can't fight him, I said. He's stronger, more experienced. He'll kill me. Tavren's expression shifted, his lips, curving in something not quite a smile. The challenge doesn't have to be combat. It can be any test of worth the challenger names. His gaze burned into mine. And you, Nira Ashvale, have strengths he'll never understand. A dangerous, fragile plan began to form, part wolf, part woman, wholly defiant. It was reckless, but it was ours. To save Serene. To save them all. The blood moon was already rising, turning the sky into a wound of red light. Around us, the pack readied for battle, warriors, sharpening blades, healers, setting out herbs, elders, whispering prayers to the ancestors. I looked at them, the children in the nursery, the mothers clutching their young, Iron's worried eyes, Mara's hard-won calm, Tavren's unspoken faith, and something solidified within me. "I'll do it," I said. My voice came out steady, even as my hands trembled. "I'll issue the challenge." Tavren's gaze locked with mine, unflinching, fierce, something ancient flickering there. "Then it begins," he murmured. "The prophecy isn't written in stone, it's written in blood and choice. Yours." As the crimson light washed over us, I felt its heat pulse through my veins, not as a curse, but a calling. I opened my palm and looked down at the moon drain, the crescent pendant that had once chained my fate. It shimmered softly, reflecting the fire of the blood moon. No longer a prison, a promise. I closed my fingers around it, the cool metal anchoring me to my lineage, to Velis, my mother, and the royal women who'd carried this burden before me. Then I rose. The air trembled with a low primal energy. I didn't hesitate this time. I let the wolf come forward. The shift rolled through me like fire and wind, and when the pain subsided, I stood not as prey, but as power. My white fur caught the red light, glowing like frost under flame. Tavren shifted beside me, his massive black form radiating strength, his amber eyes fixed on mine. Together we descended from the walls. The pack parted as we passed the white and black wolves side by side, heading into the night. The prophecy no longer felt like myth. It was alive in every breath, every heartbeat, every choice. The pendant surrendered. The wolf embraced. The human heart retained. This was the trinity that would save them. Ahead, the scent of Serene grew stronger. Fear mingling with determination, her heartbeat a beacon in the dark. I would save her. I would protect this pack. I would be the bridge between worlds that had been divided for too long. I wasn't just Nira Ashvale. I was the daughter of Velis, last of the royal bloodline. I was the prophecy fulfilled. And beneath the blood moon's burning light, running beside Tavren Wolfveil, I was finally completely whole.